Okay, hopefully you're not getting tired of seeing me or listening to me yet. Consider these just as you would sit in a classroom and hear lectures, but I've tried to make these brief because we know in today's world all of you are busy, you have many things going on. Hopefully consider yourself lucky that you don't have to sit in a classroom for an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours and listen to long, sort of boring lectures. This course in URSU 428, Practicum in Clinical and Management Decision Making, is really a clinical course, so there's not a tremendous amount of didactic content. There's not a lot of readings for you to do, but what we do have to do is give you a lot of information up front to really help you get started on the right foot. So that's why we have this series of videos for you to watch and listen to. So I hope these are very helpful for you. And the title of this video is Six Sigma Tools, and we just want to point out the three main Six Sigma tools that we hope and want you to be using during your process of developing a quality improvement project proposal. So we'll go over three key tools. There are many other quality improvement tools, Six Sigma tools, probably hundreds of tools that are in use in large corporations, manufacturing corporations, but even in healthcare across the country these days, there are a lot of people. You may also hear a term Lean Six Sigma, and the term Lean, that's actually a little bit different process that has been combined with Six Sigma to say when something is a Lean Six Sigma project, the idea is, number one, goal is to reduce variation, as we said with Six Sigma. Number two, the idea with Lean manufacturing and adding Lean into the idea of Lean Six Sigma is to improve efficiency, to try to reduce any unnecessary parts of any process that are happening. So just thought I'd throw that in there for you now because some of you may hear or may be familiar with the ideas and principles around Lean Six Sigma. So, but in this case, and for our purposes for this course, we're going to talk about some Six Sigma tools. These are quality improvement tools, and we call them tools. Most of them are really very simple but effective, and that's the key here, is to have structured processes to help us figure out how to make quality improvement changes in any process, whether it's in manufacturing, whether it's in healthcare, education, wherever that may be. So there are three main tools that we're going to discuss in this course, and you will find each of these in the Practicum Toolkit. So I'm going to describe them now, but you will find each of these there, and there's an example of each and a template of each, basically. So there's a fishbone. We're going to talk about the fishbone diagram. We're going to talk about process mapping, or a process map, and we're going to talk about the 5 whys. So there's not exactly a template for the 5 whys, but we'll talk about that. So that's the purpose of this video, and let's just get down to it a little bit and talk about a fishbone diagram. I first learned about fishbone diagrams in 1990, and I was teaching learned about first and then was teaching these quality improvement type tools, and the fishbone diagram is a basic underpinning tool for almost any quality improvement project. You may hear this term sometime, so I want to point it out to you. It's also called an Ishikawa diagram. Mr. Ishikawa was head of Toyota manufacturing many years ago in Japan, and he sort of invented this idea of the fishbone diagram, and so it's also called an Ishikawa diagram, or it may also be referred to as a cause and effect diagram. Cause and effect. So that's kind of the purpose of the fishbone diagram. It is a way to have sort of a picture of a process of processes, but what you're trying to do is find out, what's the cause of problems. These tools are really aimed at getting at root cause, what we call root cause analysis. And there are many other ways to get to root cause analysis. But the fishbone diagram is very effective, especially in teamwork, because a fishbone diagram is usually constructed best by a group of people, a team, using a brainstorming process. So for one individual to sit down and sort of map out a fishbone diagram, what the causes are and that type of thing, is probably, it can be done, but it's probably not as effective as having a group of people brainstorm and really come up with some great ideas about what potential causes are. Brainstorming is powerful. That's a powerful tool to use in any team project, and particularly around change and quality improvement. So brainstorming is in a team atmosphere something that really should be done sort of I want to say methodologically, sort of a way in a logical fashion that you get people to brainstorm. In other words, let's say you have a team of 5 people. If you say, well, let's just brainstorm this, and somebody will write down, hopefully you have sort of a big flip chart, or maybe somebody's just writing on a piece of paper and you have the fishbone diagram there, and you start brainstorming. And so in some teams, one person may be very dominant. Well, here's what I think the problem is, and and they start telling you over and over, all kinds of ideas and problems. That's fine. As I told you, in leading a team, you don't want to discount anyone. You want everyone to feel heard and listened to and understood. However, it's also important in a team environment to make sure everyone has a chance to talk. So when I use brainstorming as a technique for a group of people, I tend to like to say, let's go around, from each person, and we'll get one idea and we'll put that down. We'll go to the next person, and then you may have 10 ideas, but let's go around and get something from everyone the first time around, and then we'll go around again and we'll go around again. And sometimes somebody may say, well, I pass. I don't have an idea or thought right now. That's okay, but we typically don't want people to pass every time, because we think it's important that people contributing to a team project offer some ideas. So brainstorming is very important. Typically in fishbone diagrams, there can be as many 4, 5, 6 what we call main bones. And when you see this template, it sort of looks like a fish. And what it should look like on the right side, sort of the head of the fish, and that should be the effect or the outcome. Either the effect, it could be the effect that you're currently seeing. In other words, the actual problem. Here's the effect. We have too many falls on the floor. That's the effect. Now we want to find what are all the potential causes of too many falls. You see that? Sometimes that effect is what's currently happening. Or you may be looking at a fishbone diagram where you have the outcome. We want to have better patient satisfaction, so improved satisfaction. Well, what are the causes of the current process where we don't have good satisfaction? So either way, you can have the effect of what's currently happening, or you may have what's the outcome we want to achieve. But in your bones then over here, you have a main bone, and then 2 bones or 3 bones going off each side, and the whole idea is you have general categories. So for our purposes, we've got 4 general categories in your template that you'll see in the Practicum Toolkit. So the 4 general categories that should probably apply to almost every project. There should be some way to sort of look at each of these categories and say, can we identify what potential problems may be occurring from these categories. One is people, one is process, one is equipment, and one is materials. So those are kind of the main things that happen in almost anything. People is a very important general category, because sometimes it's just a matter of either not having enough people, having too many people involved in a process, not having the right people, the people don't have the right training, any number of factors that may be really related to the people involved in the clinical issue or the problem you're trying to get to the root cause of. The process, we also have another tool that we'll use called a process map, but in brainstorming, under the process, it may be what's the current process now, and maybe it's part of the process that's part of the problem. An example that I can think of for many years, and it may still be a problem today, for many years in most hospitals, missing medications tended to be a problem. So way back when, we didn't have computers, we didn't have med machines, whether that's Pyxis or some other type of machinery that you have, equipment that you have that has medications in them. The pharmacists would typically bring up the patient's meds in a little drawer, and we'd have them in these drawers. But no matter how they get to the floor or the unit, almost every every hospital, every organization has a process for the pharmacy to deliver medications to a nursing unit so that the nurses can provide medications to the patients. So missing medications has long been a problem in whatever system is being used. So if somebody was trying to do a root cause analysis on why do we have so many missing medications, that would be on the right side. The fish's head would be too many missing medications. Maybe there's an actual number to put to that. Number of missing medications on every day, every shift, every 24 hours, something like that. Then you would have the people who are involved, and what are the potential problems for the people that are involved in this. But the process then might be, well, how do the meds get to the floor, and what happens when you have a missing med, and what's the process for getting that missing med to the floor? It's an email to the pharmacist. It's a call. Is something sent up in a tube? Is it brought up by a person? So that's kind of the idea of identifying the process involved and trying to identify what are the potential problems in that process. And then, as I said, equipment is another general category, and equipment we tend to think of as sort of larger type things like a Pyxis medicine machine, a cow, a computer on wheels, any other type of equipment that you may be using in the clinical issue that you're dealing with. And then materials are typically the smaller things that may be involved. So maybe that has to do with IV, tubing. Maybe it has to do, with dressings not being on the floor. So those things to me are materials. Equipment is sort of larger, heavier stuff. So that's kind of the idea in a nutshell on a fishbone diagram. It's really a process of having the team look at these categories. Four main categories, four main bones. What's the effect or the outcome that we see or want to see on the right side, and then what are all the potential causes? And it's really just a brainstorming process. And once you get all those things listed on these bones, then it's a process sometimes of going through and saying, let's really analyze all these different things, and let's see if we can decide, even maybe that's through voting sometimes with the team, let's see if we can decide which one we think is having the most impact on the current effect. So it's a cause and effect diagram. We're trying to get to root cause. What's the real problem here? And by doing that in a team fashion, by doing it using a template like this fishbone diagram, you can get much better, more effective results than just sort of randomly writing the ideas down. So that's really the purpose of a fishbone diagram. Then we have something called a process map. A process map is similar to, could also be called a flow chart. But the idea in mapping is it's almost like a graphic, and you'll see the process map template in the Practicum Toolkit. And the process map is a way to just map what it says, to map the process. And there are two things that are important in a process map. And you may have two different process maps, as a matter of fact. One is, how is the process currently working? Not how it's supposed to work, how is it currently working? Another map may be, here's how the process is supposed to work. And sometimes doing two maps. Here's how the process is supposed to work, here's how the process currently is working. And then you can identify right there what some of the problems may be, what steps are not being completed that are supposed to be completed. But if you map the process, really visualize it, go out, walk through it, and really see how is it currently working, you may see discrepancies in how the process is supposed to work versus how it's currently working. So process map is a fairly simple, in my mind, but I say simple, but it is important to pay attention to detail. And again, it's something that is really done best with a team of people to help you. Because again, one person trying to map a process may miss things that they don't see that somebody else sees. So it's really great to have the team involved in helping to map the process. And the third tool in your Practicum Toolkit that you'll see for getting to root cause analysis is 5 whys. And 5 whys is a very simple process. We call it a tool, but it's basically just a way to think about how to get to deeper understanding of a cause for a problem. It's basically saying you're going to ask why at least 5 times. Sometimes it can go 6, 7, 8, but trying not to stop at asking why once. Why is this problem occurring? So let's take the example of medications, missing medications, and say you could do a fishbone diagram on that and try to come up and brainstorm the causes. You can do a process map to see how's the process working now, how's the process supposed to work, are there discrepancies there, and you can also ask 5 whys. And so why do we have so many missing medications? Well, because we don't have enough staff in the pharmacy, and it's difficult. The workload is so heavy that they're not able to always be accurate in filling all the orders and the things that need to go to the floors. Well, why don't you have enough staff in the pharmacy? That's the second why. Well, because there are budget constraints, and we have had some turnover. There may be a couple of reasons there why we don't have enough staff. Budget constraints, we don't have enough budgeted positions. We've had turnover, and it's hard to hire new people. Maybe our hospital is in a remote or rural location, and so it's hard to get people, pharmacists that want to come to this place. Any number of reasons. So, well, maybe one of the reasons, let's say, is we have so much turnover. We really have a lot of turnover. Third why, then, through that one is, why do you have so much turnover? Well, because we don't have enough people, and it's a perpetual cycle that the people we get are overworked, and so then they decide to leave and go someplace else. So, so that's 3 whys. So then you just keep asking why. Well, so why don't you have a stable group of people that are able to spread out the workload? Well, maybe it's a problem with leadership. We don't have a leader who is able to put together a good plan. So I'm running out of whys at this point, but I hope you see I'm just trying to give you an idea off the top of my head of how you just keep asking why, and hopefully the idea about 5 whys is sometimes it takes that level. It takes going 5 layers into a problem to really get to what is the root cause of the problem. So that, in essence, is what the 5 whys are about. So there are some other Six Sigma tools that we may talk about later on, things like run charts, Pareto charts. Some of you may know, may have a spouse who works in manufacturing or who uses these kind of tools. Some of you may have used some of them before in helping with other projects, but right now the main ones we wanted to focus on are the fishbone diagram, the process map, and the 5 whys. And each of your faculty members, group faculty members, will be able to help you further with these, and I'm always available if you have questions about these. So thanks again for listening and watching.